Are the police turning into serial unalivers? If you're not aware, on April 18th, Frank Tyson, a black man, was involved in a car accident, of which he crashed into a pole, but later he ran into a bar. That means he survived the car crash, but was Frank being chased by, let's say, maybe the police? As a result, he ran into a bar and eventually got unalived by the same cops that were supposed to come to his rescue. You leave your thoughts in the comment section as we're going to take a look at these videos that have emerged, providing fresh insight and perspectives towards this development. Now, people are comparing this incident to the George Floyd incident. The same way that George Floyd got unalived is the same way that Frank Tyson also got unalived, with the police's knee on his neck saying, "I can't breathe, you're going to unalive me." That's the same way that Frank Tyson was taken down by the cops. There's a perspective that suggests Frank was recently being released from a prison sentence of 24 years. Now, you tell me what you think. Do you think a person involved in such a scenario is likely to crash without anybody chasing him down? If so, then why did he run into a bar screaming, "They are going to unalive me," suggesting that somebody might have been chasing him down, hence he crashed and ran into the bar in search of people's rescue.
This is 53-year-old Frank Tyson, and on April 18th in Canton, Ohio, he was involved in a car accident that he walked away from. What he did not walk away from alive was his encounter with the responding police officers. Body cam footage has just been released in connection with the death of Frank Tyson. I'm about to show you some of it. It is disturbing, and I can only show you some of it because of TikTok.
The guy who did this, he's in the VFW. He ran in there.
He ran in where?
Right now, yeah, and his car's right there.
The man.
First things first, let's understand that Frank Tyson had just been involved in an accident where his car had ran into a light post. He did not run into the American Veterans Bar across the street. He stumbled. What you hear from a disoriented Frank Tyson as he struggles with police, he says they are trying to kill him, and it seems like that was prophecy.
Video shows an officer placing his knee on or near Tyson's neck as he was on his stomach.
Stop fighting! I can't breathe. I can't. I can't.
You're fine. You're good. 5 minutes after Tyson stopped speaking, officers realized he was unresponsive.
Did he calm down? Yeah, he might be out. Did he have a pulse? I didn't feel him. Can you tell medics step it up? He was not responsive.
Yes, you heard those words correctly. Frank Tyson said, "I cannot breathe," as an officer had his knee on his neck. Now, after the officers who initially told Frank to shut up discovered that he was non-responsive, they proceeded to perform CPR and administer Narcan. Before the paramedics showed up, Frank was pronounced dead at the hospital less than 1 hour later. Did I also mention that Frank was unarmed, or did you already know that?
Yesterday I posted a video about Frank Tyson, a man who was unalived by police in Ohio, and it got 11 views. Is it because I compared the period in policing that we're in now to an escalation period of a serial unaliver? Perchance, but I do believe that. I do think we are seeing an escalation period from the police in terms of violence and brutality we've never seen before. And the reason I call it that escalation period is because it does mirror what serial unalivers do, right? Because at some point in every career criminal who is a serial unaliver, they get to a point where they think they're untouchable, and they keep doing it more and more and more and more and more and more. And then they get caught. And usually one of two things happen. One, they either go and sit and rot in prison and think about the families and the lives that they've taken and everything that they've ruined for the rest of their life. The second one is that the state puts them to unalive. Okay? When police do it, the majority of the time, sometimes they do get convicted, but not often. The majority of the time we're getting administrative leave, 2-week suspension without pay, moving precincts. And then what happens? Usually after the family realizes that they're not going to get any sort of criminal recourse for this, they do a civil suit and they sue the city. That money does not come from the police themselves. We're paying for that. So on top of these inflated budgets that we give them, right? NYPD gets $6 billion every year. On top of cop cities, which we're saying are going to be anywhere between 50 and 100 million, and there's 47 of them. On top of all of that, we now have to contend with the fact that these men and women are unaliving at least 3 people a day in the United States. Across the country. That is on average. So, like, we gotta find a solution. We have to put a stop to the escalation period, and the way we do that is by holding them accountable. Maybe it is that the funds come out of the joint retirement fund for the group. I don't know. Maybe it's that they have to get insurance, private insurance, and if they pew someone, their insurance rates go up. I don't know what it is, but we have to hammer home that we're done. We're not doing this anymore. If not for the people who get them every year, maybe the money will tug on your heartstrings. I don't know.
So almost 4 years ago to the day of George Floyd's infamous murder by Minneapolis police, where he cried out, "I can't breathe," when police had their neck, Derek Chauvin, now in prison, Chauvin had his knee on Floyd's neck, and couldn't breathe, and George Floyd said, "I can't breathe." There's now another black man in Canton, Ohio. On April 18th, Frank Tyson allegedly crashed his car, single car accident, and walked to a nearby bar. The police walked in and arrested him and did the exact same thing that police did to George Floyd. They laid him on his face on the ground, handcuffed him, and had his neck constricted by a cop's knee. He died. And then the incredible thing about this is, so it only took 40 seconds or so. The video shows 40 seconds of the cops, struggling with him and then strangling him by putting a knee on Mr. Tyson's neck. But then they let him sit there for almost 6 minutes and do nothing to try to save his life. He's unresponsive that whole time. The cops are making jokes. And now they're on paid administrative leave. Think about that for a minute. Like, you do something wrong, somebody dies because of your job, and they say, "Oh, just, go home and sit around for a while and we'll pay you while we investigate." That is what life is like in the United States when there is law enforcement violence and even murder. It happens over 1,000 times a year. We need police reform now. So before 53-year-old Frank Tyson was killed by Canton, Ohio police last week, he had been released on April 6th from the Ohio prison system. Apparently, according to news reports, he spent over 24 years in Ohio's prison system. And as somebody that has a lot of experience litigating prison conditions and representing people in prisons and jails, I can tell you that those 24 years were really, really hard. Ohio's prison system is pretty notorious for being overcrowded and violent, much like many prison systems in the United States, especially here in the Deep South. And I can only imagine the trauma inflicted on Frank Tyson by the prison system, which could go to explaining the possibility of his erratic behavior. He allegedly crashed his car into a pole or into a tree and then walked into a bar. It's not normal behavior, but I'm sure that there's incredible trauma and mental health explanations for his behavior, which really heightens the importance and requires police to respond more judiciously and not immediately use force to arrest somebody for essentially was a traffic accident. If you want to learn more, go to our website, fairfightinitiative.org.
Now, those are the videos that we've gathered for you. Let's take a look at some of the details. Let's see what happened exactly. So they are saying the incident began when the officers responded to a report of a car crash. They found Tyson at a bar, suspected of leaving the scene of the accident. An altercation ensued as they attempted to restrain him. One officer placed his knee on Tyson's back near his neck, while another handcuffed him. Despite Tyson's pleas and bystanders' request to remove him, the officers continued to restrain him. So after the crash, Tyson didn't run, he got into the bar. Now you tell me whether he was trying to fit in or just trying to grab a drink. And after the cops came, they immediately grabbed him, as if they were suspecting him of something. Even though the crowd said they should let him go, the police didn't listen. The Camden Police Department was not immediately available for comment on the video, which was posted online by several local media outlets, or to confirm details about the incident. The 36-minute clip begins with a patrol officer coming upon a car that had struck an electrical pole and a bystander telling him that the driver of the vehicle had fled into a nearby tavern. Officers are then seen entering the establishment, where they found Tyson standing at the bar. An altercation ensued as they attempted to grab his arms, and he reportedly shouts, "They are trying to unalive me," and called the sheriff. Now this is the part that got me suspicious. First of all, how does cops grab somebody that was involved in a road accident as if they were not trying to help him? And then the fact that he screamed that they're trying to unalive me, that was suspicious as well. Officers wrestled Tyson to the ground and handcuffed him. One of them is seen placing a knee on his back near his neck for about 30 seconds. Tyson can be heard repeatedly saying, "I can't breathe, I can't, get off my neck," as an officer yells, "Come down," and "You are fine," before standing up. The video next shows Tyson lying motionlessly, face down on the floor for about 6 minutes, while officers speak with bar patrons. So they didn't check up on him when he became motionless, as if they knew exactly what had happened and they were not bothered by it, as if they had planned for it to happen the way it happened. This might just be a speculation or a claim, but all in all, we're just trying to have an insightful, educative discussion here. But leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, I want to share with you a perspective that shows even though this injustice is done to black folks to ensure that they suffer, but in the long run, it ends up affecting all the communities, including the palm-colored one. Injustice not only inflicts pain and suffering, but also exacts a toll on resources, both tangible and intangible. The scenario of why police officers unjustly targeting innocent black individuals not only perpetuates systemic racist, but also squanders valuable resources in the process. Let's look at this in more details. Firstly, the misallocation of law enforcement resources is glaring in cases where innocent black individuals are needlessly targeted. Hours spent attempting to apprehend or interrogate someone who possesses no threat not only diverts police attention from genuine criminal activity, but also drains departmental resources. And this point that suggests of trying to interrogate somebody innocent is the reason why I'm suggesting he might have been running from somebody, because he was recently released from prison, which makes him an easy target of the cops. Just think about that. These wasted man hours could have been redirected towards addressing pressing community concerns or improving policy community relations through proactive engagement initiatives. Moreover, the physical resources expanded in these situations are substantial. Consider the fuel consumed as police cruisers race to apprehend an innocent black man based on racial bias rather than factual evidence. Each gallon burned represents taxpayers' dollars needlessly squandered on a fruitless pursuit, perpetuating a circle of fiscal irresponsibility and inefficiency within law enforcement agencies. So we're saying if this was the case of their arrest, then they have wasted fuel and hours, as well as taxpayers' money, in trying to apprehend somebody who's innocent. The toll on human resources is equally significant. Police officers, driven by misguided perceptions and biases, invest time and energy in interrogating innocent individuals solely based on their race. This not only erodes trust within the community, but also fosters a culture of suspicion and antagonism, hindering genuine efforts toward fostering cooperation and collaboration between law enforcement and marginalized communities. And the more this happens, marginalized communities will stop cooperating with law enforcement. In fact, we're seeing this happening in the protests, the ones involving Israel and the Palestine war in Gaza. A lot of those protests arrested might have been arrested on racial grounds, and based on the fact that they are rallying behind a conflict that the state doesn't want them to be involved in. And we're seeing parents and relatives alike getting concerned and involving themselves in this discussion because their young ones are involved in the arrests that shouldn't even be there in the first place. Furthermore, the ripple effects of such injustices extend beyond immediate encounters. Consider the emotional and psychological toll on both the victims and their communities, who are forced to contend with the trauma of being unjustly targeted, but also to protect them. The psychological burden translates into long-term social and economic costs as individuals grapple with the aftermath of racial profiling and police brutality. In the long run, straining public health and social support. Beyond these tangible costs, there are broader societal implications to consider. The erosion of trust in law enforcement undermines the very fabric of democracy and civil society, perpetuating a circle of disenfranchisement and alienation among marginalized communities. The resulting social unrest and discord exact a toll on economic productivity and political stability, further exacerbating existing inequalities and injustices. And this discussion is the reason why all Black people should stand together in unity to bring awareness to discussions and growing concerns such as these, because the powers that be might just want to push this under the doormat. But if we stand together in unity and help one another to bring awareness to these, those behind such crimes in the long run are gonna face justice. Let's do it for George Floyd, Frank Tyson, and for ourselves. And with that being said, leave your thoughts in the comment section. We would like to hear your thoughts involving this discussion. Like, share, and subscribe. We will see you in the next video. Stay blessed and stay protected.